What is empathy and how to experience it? As I sat down in the evening to write my script for my next podcast, I had to stop and pause my work because my little boy had a bit of a fever and refused to take his liquid cold medicines. I tasted the medicine myself. I can't blame the kid. That cherry-flavored prescription syrup tastes like cherries no more than a vegan patty tastes like hamburger. I just imagine that poor kid trying so hard to get rest without taking the medicine he needs. My wife and I couldn't stand the thought of him feeling so wiped out. So we all got in the car in the evening and went to Walgreens, and as a family we looked at every kid's cold medicine until we found one that he agreed to take. While we were near the back of the store in the children's cold section that's kind of next to the pharmacy, right there in front of me there was this little girl. She must have been about 3 years old. She was coughing and hiccuping and suddenly crying and screaming. I think her mother was asking one of the employees about something for an ear infection. Poor kid, poor mom. There was another customer sitting near the pharmacy pickup window, obviously with a cold and definitely waiting on a needed prescription. This person was maybe half asleep, maybe half awake, but definitely low sleep. You could tell. I could tell the child screaming bothered this poor sick person. She looked so wiped out, irritated, and uncomfortable. I completely understood her exasperation. The screams were piercing through my ears too. I also know it feels awful to be exhausted and low on sleep. I've been there. But wait, I felt for the little girl too. Being in a pharmacy at night, so restless and unhappy. Plus there was a time when I myself had a cold and an ear infection at the same time. That little kid was so tiny and cute and must have been in a lot of pain. The little girl's mom was frantic too. She looked concerned and mortified and desperately trying to contain her little girl. I understood her too. I'm a dad and devoted uncle with a great niece and nephew. I know how it feels to be responsible for kids that are sometimes hard to control. That's just how kids work sometimes. Luckily, the story ended well. My wife was standing with me and our son in the checkout. She loves kids and kids love her, so in the checkout aisle, my wife started making faces at the little girl, winking at her and looking like a big fuzzy muppet. The girl looks at her, reserved at first, then she grins. Now they're just smiling at each other. I'm sorry, I apologize. I think I got a little off track with my story. This podcast is designed to explain what empathy is. So back to the question. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes. You tend to feel more empathy towards things you have been through because you can relate to them. It also means taking yourself out of the equation. This is not about what an incident means to you, but what it means to another. You exercise setting your ego aside. To nurture empathy, it helps to widen what you typically experience and be open to taking in what others tell you about their own experiences. I love listening to people who have different lives and make different choices. I understand the world a little bit better thanks to what they have shared with me. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please consider subscribing.